Okay. Now, what is Docker? So, any of you know like what is Docker? Where do we use those things? That's okay. So basically, what happens is in our traditional world, what happens like developers develop the code in their dev environment. So in their dev environment, they develop the code. Once the code is and once they do the build is pushed into the test environment for the testers to test it. So what's actually happening here? We have one complete machine here, complete machine in terms like which has a operating system. On the operating system we have installed whatever, for example we are developing an e-commerce application, so developers are developing this application on that software. Basically on operating system we have installed the e-commerce package, the software, and in that software they are making the changes. Once they create a new build, the build will be pushed into the test environment for the testers to test. Now here in this case again, we have to create another environment, that is we need to have another machine, and on the other machine we have to install the operating system, then the same e-commerce application. And so basically what happens is like, okay, developers think like, okay, they have developed the product, looks all good in their dev environment, but when they build and push that product into another environment, sometimes it may not behave the same. Now that is the problem, because like, because they don't match, the environments don't match, or the dependencies which we are looking for may not be there in the other environment. For several reasons, the build may fail in another environment. So this is a common problem which has been happening for ages. So because of that, what they, prior to this, what they used to do is we used to have a concept called as virtualization. Basically virtualization is nothing but you buy a VMware or something, and it will make your virtual images basically. So on your one operating system, on your one machine, basically you could say, on your one machine or one laptop, or sorry, not one laptop, basically it would be servers. So on your one server you would be having an operating system. Over that we used to create an n number of virtual machines based on the capacity of that server. We used to create virtual machines. So what is the virtual machine again used to have? It used to have an operating system, and then on over the operating system we used to install the application, whichever application we want to work on. Now, so again, it comes back to the same concept which I was just telling you. So if, for example, developers are developing in this virtual machine, and when they try to push it into this test environment, and maybe it works here, but when they try to push the same code into a UAT environment, maybe it won't work here, because though it's the same operating system, same application, but for some reason, maybe the libraries are not right or some other reason, it may not work there. So in that case, what you guys usually do is we have to go to a concept of Docker. Now, what is the difference between this virtualization and Dockers? In virtualization, basically, we are creating individual virtual operating systems or virtual machines, basically. And virtual machines we create. That means like every time we have to spin up a new machine, we have to go and create one new virtual machine with an operating system, and or then over that we have to install the application, then its libraries and all this. So that's a big problem. I mean, it's not a problem, it's bit of a strainful thing. So instead of, so Docker is basically like a revolutionary thing. It got rid of this operating system concept at all. It said, I don't need any operating system, we don't need an operating system at all. What's happened here? uh, any question here? Meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, please ask me. So what Docker is telling is, okay, you build your application wherever. Okay. So you build your application in dev environment or whichever environment, doesn't matter. You build it, but what will your application have? For example, we build a Java application. A Java application is built. So in the Java application, we will have basically our code, and it will have its dependencies. Like if it's a Maven project, it will have Maven dependency, and also all the dependencies which we have used in the project. Guys, if you don't mind, can you please put your microphone on silent. Yeah. Yeah, thanks guys. Okay, so we developed a dev environment. In the dev environment, the developer has developed the code. So basically when they build a package, what it has the code, whatever the code they written for the Java application. They also will have the dependencies, whatever the dependencies. So basically you call them as libraries, all the libraries relevant to it. And because if it's a Java application, then you need to specify which Java version it is going to be worked on. So all these things would be there. While developing it, all this you will set up in your dev environment, and the same configurations which we have set up in dev should be in another environment. So we saw like with other applications we are having this problem, like when we move our code from this environment to another environment. So we were having this problem, like some of the dependencies maybe not copied, maybe the Java is not copied across, or the Maven is not copied across, then our code which was working previously doesn't work. So these are the things which we were facing. So what happened is when it comes to now Docker said, okay, don't worry about all this. We won't think even about our operating system. Forget about the operating system, because on an operating system only we install the application. Whatever the application we are going to install, it would be installed basically on the operating system only. But they said, don't even think, worry about that. We will create something called as a container. So inside the container, whatever the application you are trying to install will be there. We will put the application there. So inside a container, we will put the application, and whatever the dependencies we need. As we just said, for a Java application, we need Java JRE, or whatever we need Maven, all these libraries. So basically, they make a container with only all these items. That means when a developer develops this product in the dev environment and creates a container, it will have all the dependencies which are needed for this particular application to work. Now, that means this container which they have created is like a sealed one. So it's like a sealed package which has everything in it. Now you take it to your test environment or your UAT environment, whichever environment, it will still work there, because all the dependencies are there, their libraries are there, everything is there. So there is, I mean, still there would be a chance of failure, but it would be very minute, very less chance of failure. And these containers are like shippable. You pick the container, and you put your image, you create a whatever the application you are trying to develop, you develop it, you develop the application, put that image into a container, and that sits there, and it can be used. So if there are multiple testers in your company, now as automation tester, you created one container you created, then you give this container to whoever, like maybe another tester who wants to use it, then they can quickly, then they can just run the container. If they run the container on their application, on their laptop or whatever, then it will work for them. That's it. So it's as simple as that. So basically what we are so Docker is a huge topic just on its own, so I have to do 3 classes for it. So initially what we will do is we'll understand how to set up the Docker, like how to set up a Docker, then what does images mean, and what does containers mean. And once we understand these concepts, the next one we have to understand is they are when we said like, okay, developer develops a product, the product is created as an image. Now this but there are already some standard there are already some images available on Docker Hub. Docker Hub is basically a Docker, it's like a GitHub tool. Basically, you will just go to this Docker Hub, and so I can quickly show you also. So like that, it's a Docker Hub, is basically, it has all the images sitting there. So you basically enter your username and password, just sign in. It's a free sign in anyway. You can sign in there, and you can just, for example, I have already signed in. Now I want to get a image. So if already somebody has already created a image, we'll just basically get that. For example, if we say Selenium standalone, Selenium stand alone, or just type Selenium more than enough. So then it will come up with so many images. So here if you see, it is Selenium standalone Chrome, Selenium standalone Firefox, Selenium standalone IE. There would be several like this. We basically have to download these images. Now I'll tell you how to use, where do we use this concept. For example, you have a scenario in your company, you developed your Java code, your automation code, Java code. Now you have to run your code in IE browser, in a Firefox browser, and also on the Chrome. Now to run all these three in different browsers, maybe you will use a concept of Selenium grid, yeah? Selenium grid, and then you will say, okay, and you will say, okay, go on to this virtual machine and run this Chrome one, go on to another virtual machine and run this Firefox, go on to another virtual machine and run this IE machine. So that's how you would be running all of them, yeah, because we want to run each one in an individual environment, for example. So you will create your own, you will be, uh, create a hub, and from the hub you create all these nodes, node 1, node 2, node 3, like that. And you are using all your virtual machines. But what this Docker has made it, because of the Docker, the easy part is you don't need to create any virtual machines. We know that we can create a image here, and basically inside, and we run the image, and the image becomes the container, and inside the container itself you can run your code. So I'll show you quickly how to use these things now. So you have to go to Docker, basically Docker, and download the Docker. Basically it's like click next, next, next. It would be like that. It's not that hard. Okay, go to the Docker, download the Docker, log into it, enter your logins, download the Docker. Once you download the Docker, in your command prompt, just to see if the Docker is up, or you can also see from here. If you see here, you will see something like that. That is basically a Docker. If you right click on it, you can see like, yeah, it's I have logged in with my logins. So, and you just open your CMD, any command prompt. Just type cmd and open a command prompt, and in the command prompt just do docker version whatever. So then it will tell you whatever the version of the Docker is, basically. So Docker version, yeah. So it will give you the whatever the latest version of Docker which you have on your machine. And as I told you, for you have to create images. So there are already plenty of images created by people. We can go download those images. For example, we want to run our code on a Chrome browser. Then we go and download this Selenium standalone Chrome. To download that, if you click on this one, it will tell you all. If you just click on from the Docker hub, if you click on it, it says Docker pull Selenium standalone Chrome. You just copy this one, paste it into this one, and it will download it for you. Once you download the image, you can see the image by saying Docker images. Then it will list whatever the images because if you see here, I have already downloaded Selenium standalone Chrome, which is exactly this one, Selenium standalone Chrome. Now I want to use this in my automation code. Basically I want to run my automation code on Chrome. I want to run my automation code on a Firefox. Then I have to pull Docker pull Selenium standalone Firefox. So whichever one we want to run on, we have to download those images. There is a very detailed document on GitHub on how to use this one. So for example, one more thing very important is, so what we will try to do is, today what we will try to do is, initially we start with just learning about standalone images. For example, standalone image. So we'll try to run our standalone image and run our code on that one. That is one way. The next one, what we will try to do is, once we are done with our standalone image, then the next thing we will do is, in the next class, we will try to see, okay, we have our code, our Java code. Now how to create a grid, and how to run it on different containers. For example, Chrome container, Firefox container, IE container. That one we will do in the next one. But basically we are creating our code, Java code, and we are running this. But in the next class after that, the last one, we will create our own image, because if we create our own image, then it will have all our dependencies, libraries inside it. That is the concept we have to work on. That is the main thing. So we write our Java code, we create our own image, we create our own image. We will see how to create Docker file to run our own image. So, and create containers. So this container will be the, this is your own container, because it would be specific. You join a company. When you join a company, based on whatever the requirements, you develop the code. Once you develop the code, you create an image for that thing, and you create your own container. That container you give to other testers or whoever wants to test it. Then they can just download the Docker and run this image basically. So these images, again, you can put it onto GitHub, and from, sorry, Docker Hub. From Docker Hub they can download. You can make them private also. If your company pays for those Docker Hub images, then that's fine. If not, you can just leave it in your local. Okay, so let's go with our today's agenda. So today's agenda is basically to download the Docker image. So we downloaded Docker image. So for example, I downloaded this Selenium standalone Docker image. Somebody has their microphone on, so can they please mute it? I think somebody is cooking. They have their microphone on. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so basically, once you download the Docker, just enter this command Docker version. It will tell you what is the version of the Docker. Now, as I just told you how to Docker Hub, just create an account on Docker Hub, login, search for a Chrome standalone version. So this is the image which we will need to pull from Docker Hub. I just pull the image from the Docker Hub. So the screenshot tells you just like just as I just told you how to pull the image. So you have to basically just copy that and pull the image. Okay, next one is logins issue. So for example, once you try to pull the Docker image, sometimes it says now your credentials are not matching. Then whatever credentials you have on Docker Hub, the same credentials you have to use. So the command is docker login, then it will ask you to enter your username and password. Then it will say login succeeded. Then only it will allow you to download the image. If you see in this screen, Docker pull Selenium standalone Chrome latest. So this is the tag, latest is the tag. So I said like whatever the latest Chrome version you have, just download it for me. So it downloaded the latest version. So once it downloads, you will see like this, uh, the status download a newer image. So you will see that. So once it downloads, again we type the command docker images. It will list all the images which are present in our Docker repository, basically in our local machine. So you will see Docker images. As I just mentioned, same thing, Docker images, and GitHub is the place where we have to go to find the steps for it. If you go to their Selenium GitHub, then it tells you the steps on what to do. Once you install the, once you downloaded the image, next thing is we have to run it. To run it, if, first we'll see if any container is running. So if you see here, there is no container running. So we have to run this particular container, whichever container. So the Chrome one we downloaded. So we want to run that container. So that is the command. They are saying docker run, and they have told already the port. They want us to use this 444 port, and they are saying, okay, run our standalone Chrome version, whatever we had, run that. So basically you just copy that and say, and run the command, and the image will run. Once the image runs, now yeah, it says something is, we see something here. Now we try to understand what is that. So when you do docker ps, now you will see, yep, there is the container id. So it created one container for us. So in this container, now we can so we have our Java code in Eclipse or whatever IDE. Basically we run our Java code from there, and basically when you run your code, the code has to be pointed to this one only. We have to point to this one, this 444 ports. and we have to tell the code to go to this environment only and run our code, then it will run our code. So basically in your local machine, if you have to test like in Firefox, IE or whatever, you download all these images from there, you get all the ports on one machine itself. Using these containers you can run all of them. So let's see on this. So Docker PS, before running the image, let's check for any other container running. So we just quickly check, there was nothing there. Now let's run our Selenium Chrome image. So same which I just did. Now check for the newly created one. Yeah, we just saw that one. Now we created container. Now we have to create Selenium test and run inside container. Let's see those steps. So whoever is familiar with automation, you know how to create a Maven project in Eclipse. Just create a Maven project, create a test as below. In your SRC test Java, just create a one test, simple test, just to understand how this one works. So what I did is I created one simple test just to navigate to a website. Basically, that's it. I'll just wait for this Eclipse to load. Okay, so I created one project called Docker demo. Inside the Docker demo, main thing you remember is your form.xml. In your form, just add few things. Only the important thing is the Selenium one, and maybe add a Shopify plugin. That's it. And tell, yeah, don't worry about this one. Next class I'll teach you about that one. That's running in Cucumber, which I'll teach you in the next class. At this point, we just need to install this dependency. Basically, that's it. Selenium dependency. And I went under SRC test Java, and I just created one simple test, navigate to some website basically. So if you see here what I did, uh, desired capable. So in the code you have to add these things, like when you're doing it, what are these ones I've explained I think here. So in, if you see, okay, at the rate test, everybody knows, yeah, it's a JUnit test basically. So it will download the JUnit, import the JUnit library, and desired capability, this tells which browser we are going to execute our code on. So we said, okay, execute it on Chrome browser. Then we say, okay, tell me the container, where is your container located? Mine one is located some here, localhost 444 wd hub. These details are present in the GitHub itself. They have provided us with these details. So basically you have to just copy this URL. Basically what we are saying is run my code on this container. This container is present inside the Docker, so it will through through the HTTP protocol, your code will go to this particular container and it will run it. We use this remote driver. So we are using a remote driver because we are running it on a container. So previous to remote drivers, we were using VMware, yeah, some virtual machine. So for that virtual machine, we used to tell, okay, where was the virtual machine, what is the port for that virtual machine, what is the URL for that virtual machine. We used to give all similar thing we are doing here. And I said like, okay, driver.get that website tab.com.au, then sysout driver.get title. So basically I said to see like if my code has run and has it come out with some result. So I said like sysout this one on my console. So let's go back to this code. We made sure the container is up. The container is up here. So we run our code basically. So run as a, yeah, we can run that way, or we can run it as a project also. Yeah, Docker demo, Maven, run as Maven test. I'll put this in the GitHub library. Maybe you guys can download and play with it. But I'll also share this document which I've created. So yeah, build is successful. Looks all good. Okay, let's run this one. Let's run the JUnit test. So if you see, it's desired capabilities Chrome. So it's gone to a remote one. It's gone to some remote whatever application IP you could say, and it ran through the code and it came back with this one. So this code which we have written has not run on your machine. Basically it went on to a Docker Hub, Docker container, and it has run there. Basically it's run on your Docker container. So but this was done in the headless mode. If you want to see it happening, then you have to use this one, like the debug mode. If you use the debug mode, then you would be able to see even the interaction, like entering the URL and navigating to that page. And also you will also see the, yeah, that's it. You will just see the navigating to the website basically. Anyway, the output will be printed onto the console. So that's it for now, guys. If you have any questions, ask me.
Chicken, how is the storage when you downloading the images from the Docker?
Yeah, they are basically storing inside the Docker. Yeah, everything is sits in the Docker. All the images will store inside the Docker itself. So you have downloaded the Docker, yeah.
Yeah.
And these are like if you see, they are not like huge ones. They are not even eating up a lot of memory on your machine. Yeah, they are like
Mm.
baby things, we say. So but this is not the right way to do. For a start, this is a good way to start. So somebody is using grid, especially if somebody is using Selenium grid, then only the concept which I told is worth. But next class I told you, like I'll show you about Selenium grid, how to run on different containers. I'll show you that one. But the main purpose of this one is not to create all these like we are not supposed to use their images. We create our own image. We create our own image and we'll run our own one. So the last class, I can give you a glimpse of our last class, what we are going to do. Documents, because that is important. This is the one which I implement at the place where I work. So basically we create a Docker file and we'll say uh, our code. Docker file is the one which we write in our code. Maybe I would have showed here, but it would be bit too early to show these things. So if you see here in the project, I have entered Docker file. I create on the root directory, you create a Docker file. Basically what we are saying is, take my entire code, take my entire code and using this OpenJDK. So this is one of the images, basically OpenJDK. Use this one and copy everything into this one. And once you copy that, and also inside this OpenJDK, basically we are building a Linux machine. Yeah. So inside the machine, we are saying, okay, install Chrome also. So that's what we said, install Chrome driver inside the machine, and copy dot dot means it will copy entire project of your project into that image. So that means to copy it, you have to use this command docker build then image Docker file. So from the Docker file, please build a image for me. Once the image is created, you will see something like that. So it will show you, okay, the image is done. Then once the image is done, now run your image in a container using the below code. So same like what we did, Docker run, same thing we did. And we are saying mvn test. So whatever you on your project, you right click on it, run as mvn test. It runs all your tests here. Same thing will run in your container. Then the container will pick up your entire tests and start running it. This container is shippable. You can give it to anybody. This is the last class which I was going to teach you guys. So this we aim for this one. So our we because we join a company. So today you are at Tabco, tomorrow at your NBN, tomorrow at another company. So but okay, if they are you want, but you are working for a digital company, that's a different. Okay, they want to test it across different browsers. Maybe you can use that Selenium grid concept. But usually developers use this same concept only. They just create their containers, that's it. So we also create our own containers, and that container can be used by anybody at any time, as long as they have one machine and they have a Docker install. A manual tester is there. You'll say, okay, there is a Docker image for you, go and run that one. So if it passes your smoke and regression, then go and do your manual testing. So that's what you can tell them. But this is an early start, you could say. Any question? No questions? Any question, doesn't matter for me. You can ask me anything. So Selenium Grid, I'll do the next class. If you guys don't have any questions, that's it, guys. Then I'll put this code in the GitHub, whatever this Maven project which I have done, and also this document which I've created. Basically, you just follow the document, nothing more than that. Their steps are very clear. What to do from only thing is download the Docker from the GitHub and start just going through these steps. That's it. And try to create your first container, a Chrome container. Then after that, just then once you create your Chrome container, once it's done, then go to then look for Selenium Firefox. So Firefox, download that one, Firefox one, and play with that one. So once you find that Selenium one, then just download that one and just and try to run that one and run your code on the Firefox browser. But one thing, every time the dependencies is the thing here, like here we said remote driver, this one, desirable capability as Chrome, then you just type dot Firefox. So you type Firefox and run it on your Firefox container, or like that you can play with them. Okay, all good, guys? No response? Okay, then I'll stop here. If you have any questions, you can ping me. Okay, then thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Jagan. Bye.